Hi, my name is Elizabeth Gordon, and I'm a Senior Technical Support Scientist here at LI-COR. Today, I wanted to give a brief overview of the warm-up, controller, and fluorometer tests on the LI-6800. You can find all of these tests by going to the Startup menu and then Warm-up tests in your LI-6800 software. Now, when you get to that screen, you'll first see that on the top you have a log of when the last time the tests were run, and on the bottom you'll see a record of any warnings or failures that might have happened in these tests. The warm-up tests are designed to be run every single day that you use your instrument, and they take about 5 to 10 minutes to run. They do a quick check of instrument hardware, software, and function, and just give you confidence that everything is working well before you start to take these measurements. You can run all the warm-up tests at once by pressing the Start button, or you can individually choose to run a warm-up test by using the drop-down menu and choosing that warm-up test. When the warm-up tests are completed, you'll see that you'll have passed, warned, or failed. For warned or failed, there will typically be instructions for you to let you know what you should do to resolve this problem. You can then rerun that individual test once you've done all of those things. If you find that you rerun the warm-up test and it still does not pass, at that point you'd want to talk to your local distributor or LI-COR technical support. There's a complete description of all the warm-up tests and all the passed, warned, and failed messages that you can find for each warm-up test in the manual. And just to give you an idea of the most common warnings or failures, they're in the flow meter 0 because that sensor does drift just a little bit, or related to the chemical column. So maybe you didn't put in your soda lime, or you need to put in a new CO2 cartridge, or perhaps the desiccant needs to be changed. The second category of tests that we can do in this screen is the controller tests. And these are a much longer process. They usually take 30 to 45 minutes. So we don't do them every single day. That's just too much time. Instead, we would only run those at the beginning of a field season or the beginning of a big measurement campaign, or maybe you loaned your instrument out to a collaborator and you just want to make sure everything's okay when you got it back. The controller tests take longer because they test the instrument's controls of various things in a much more complete fashion. So for example, the warm-up test might do 3 temperature set points to make sure temperature control is working, but the controller test will do 6. Again, you'll pass, warn, or fail each of these tests, and you'll have instructions or guidance as to what to do if you warn or fail. You can find that on the screen and a further description of it in the manual. And if you continually fail or warn, you should contact your local distributor or technical support. The most common failure in the warm-up test is generally related to H2O, and it's not necessarily that you have a problem with H2O control, it's just that your environmental conditions aren't quite right, or maybe you do need to add a little bit of extra water to your humidifier column. The third category of tests in this screen is the fluorometer tests. If you don't have a fluorometer, you will never see these tests. If you do have a fluorometer, then you would want to run these each time you were going to use the fluorometer as a fluorometer. If you're only using light source only mode, then it's not as important to run these tests. They take about 5 minutes, and they go through the function of the fluorometer just as the warm-up test goes through the function of the instrument as a whole. Again, you're going to have passed, warned, and failed, and you're going to have instructions for what to do and a complete description in the manual. The most common failure in these tests is the fluorometer 0, again because that sensor does drift just a little bit. The combination of the warm-up, controller, and fluorometer tests allow you to make sure that your instrument is working well and that you can have the confidence in the data that you collect with it. So we do encourage you to understand what the warm-up tests, controller tests, and fluorometer tests are telling you. And if you have any questions, problems, or concerns, you can always contact LI-COR technical support.